This reform of the Security Council has been one of the most important reform agendas. When I first became the Secretary General, many people asked me a question: what is your reform policy? I thought that they were expecting me to change this United Nations in a more effective and efficient way through reforms. I thought much of the changing management change. Then later, I began to realize that when people say reform of the United Nations, they were only interested in reform of the Security Council. I believe that considering such dramatic changes which have taken place during the last 6 decades, the Security Council should be reformed and changed to meet the expectations of the international community, to be able to address all global challenges which we are facing. We are living in an era of multiple crises, thus requiring multiple solutions and multiple cooperative and coordinated way. Their Security Council, particularly Permanent 5, have a special role to play. Everybody agrees, and I believe that there is almost unanimous consensus within the United Nations that Security Council should be reformed in a more transparent, more democratic, a more representative manner. And they should also change their working method so that more members of the United Nations can participate in their decision-making process. Not only all these P5, or not only the 15 Security Council members. That, I think, we have almost unanimous agreement. Then the question comes where and when, how big and who should be sitting in the Security Council. Member states, depending upon which country or which group of countries, like G4 or some other countries, have presented their proposals. Now, for the first time, during the last 17 years at least, their negotiation process, the United Nations has taken up in a much more elevated and focused way how the member states should expand and change the Security Council. Many proposals have been made, and they have compiled, and they have already done 5 rounds of negotiation. The General Assembly is going to take another round of informal negotiations soon. As a Secretary General, I have been always trying to facilitate this dialogue so that the member state could find the acceptable and agreeable formula. This is the common interest to meet all the global challenges. This is an important part of global governance. I hope member states will make good decisions as soon as possible. There is another reform process in ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council. They have made a good progress again. They have agreed to establish annual ministerial review, and they have again established a biannual development cooperation forum. This is a new system which has been introduced since 2-3 years ago, and there are many other areas where we can enhance global governance capacity of the United Nations. As a Secretary General, I have been very much humbled by having heard so many criticisms or suggestions that the United Nations needs to be more efficient, transparent, accountable, and effective. That everybody agrees, and we are in the process of making this United Nations such an organization, trustful and most effective one. This is a part of, again, global governance. The President Montbrial talked about a lot during his opening remarks, that we have a G8, G20, G77, or G24. There have been a lot of discussions what to do with the G8, what would be the opportune formula. I think all this global governance format was born out of actual necessity and importance at the time. Now, G20 has surfaced as the world's premier economic forum to deal with financial and economic crisis. But these two have a better coordination and consultation with most of the United Nations member states. At least the minimum 172 countries are not properly represented. But that does not mean that all 192 member states should take part. We appreciate the role and strength in terms of political and financial and economic strength of G20, accounting for more than 80% of national GDP and population. Therefore, their decision is very important. Their decision can be very effective. But at the same time, as the Secretary General, I have been urging world leaders of G20 that they should not lose sight of the challenges and plights of many vulnerable countries. That is what I'm going to do again in Seoul. And I think that for the first time in the history of G20, the Seoul government has taken development agenda. That is very much appreciated and commendable one. And that agenda will deal with the concerns and challenges of the most developing countries. Again, I hope that this will satisfy your questions. Merci beaucoup. Merci.